Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and it is an honor to introduce you to one of my heroes and true leaders in the marketing industry, Jay Abraham. Jay is the $21.7 billion man and highest paid marketing consultant. He is a proven business leader and top executive coach in the United States. And as a founder and CEO of the Abraham Group in Los Angeles, California, Jay has spent his entire career solving complex problems and fixing underperforming businesses. He has significantly increased the bottom lines of over 10,000 clients in more than 1,000 industries and over 7,200 sub-industries worldwide. Jay has dealt with virtually every type of business scenario and issue. He has studied and solved almost every type of business question, challenge, and opportunity. Now, before we get started, I wanted to share a little bit more about Jay.
Jay Abraham, a marketing legend, mentor to mentors, and the highest paid marketing consultant in the world.
He's the go-to guy now. And I gotta say, if you think of most of the marketing consultants that you probably don't know the name of, they've all been influenced by Jay.
I probably wouldn't be here without my mentor, Jay Abraham. Through, his teachings and what he's done for me, he's taught me how to position myself in very unique positions, what is my unique offering, as well as the ability to communicate.
Jay Abraham has significantly increased the bottom line of over 10,000 clients and over 400 industries worldwide.
Jay has had a tremendous influence on my business. Not just my business, but really the deep ways in which I think about my students, my readers, my clients, my customers.
His books have profoundly influenced my ability to grow Bulletproof, and his personal mentorship and his one-on-one sessions with me have absolutely changed the game for me and for Bulletproof and for our mission to change the world.
Forbes magazine called him the real thing and lists Jay as one of the top 5 executive coaches in the country. He's also a best-selling author and has been featured in USA Today, the New York Times, Inc., and Success, among many others.
Life is a series of mentors, and Jay Abraham is absolutely the best in that area.
Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest Jay Abraham. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Thank you, Sheila. Good seeing you again, or hearing you, depending on what form people are experiencing this. But yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yes, and I'd like to start off with asking you if you have a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a tough situation you had to overcome and how you got back on track.
I wish I had only one. I could go through some of them. When I first, I'll start. I got married the first time at a courthouse, and on the way home, my then wife and I were in the middle of a 3-car accident, and we got towed in our demolished car to my parents, where we spent our honeymoon. That wasn't very good. Then we saved enough, and when we had our first apartment, the day we moved in, I got fired from my job, and I was taking the bus, and I took 3 buses to get home, and I waited till the very last at midnight because I was too ashamed, and I had to basically I put every penny we had into that apartment. One time, not long afterwards, I'd left our car unlocked, and they stole our baby seat, and I couldn't afford a new one for a pay period. That was pretty bad. I had a job with a company I moved to Dallas for, and right after I bought a house, they went broke and owed me $10,000 on my credit card I couldn't pay, and they took my credit cards away. You want to hear more? Let's see. I had a client that was paying me $2 million right when back in the late 70s, when gold first was introduced, and it was up to 800, and it dropped overnight, and they almost went broke, and they terminated me the week I moved into my new house and put everything in that, and I was making $2 million, and then I was making nothing. Let's see. I had a divorce that was supposed to cost about $300,000 and cost about $4 million. I got involved in a custody suit I was supposed to win, and instead I lost most of the custody and had to pay an extra $2,000 a month. You want to hear more? Let's see. I had a business partner that cost me 20 some million dollars. I could go on, but the point is, we all have setbacks relative and relevant to our lives. It's just, what are your choices? I mean, the world doesn't care whether you're down for the count or whether you bounce back and with a gusto and zeal and take on the world and the challenges more passionately and purposely. And I don't think you have a choice. I think if you give up, it's pretty sad. If you don't give up, then you just you learn from whatever happened and you make the most of it, and it doesn't destroy you. And I mean, what are the choices? We all have, relative to our lives, lots of setbacks. Some are very heartbreaking. Some are very, very, very poignant, very sad. And but I mean, you can't go backward. You can only, they said you can't rewind, but you can reset. So you have to say, okay, what happened was unfair. It was tragic, heartbreaking, whether it's personal, financial, physically. But I mean, wherever you are, you have to play the ball where it lies, don't you?
Right. That's so important. And this last 13 or 14 months with our COVID lockdowns and this whole new experience, I think it's even more important we start to remember what matters most.
I agree. Yes. It brings a new definition to relevancy, and you realize that things probably aren't going to really be that important in the scope of forever, and health and relationships and being happy with less materialistic things probably are more important, but it depends on who you are. But I think this has been a very galvanizing and cathartic period for a lot of people. It's been hard, been very unfair to a lot of very good people, deserving, worthy people who, should not have been adversely hurt the way they have. One of my sons is in the restaurant business, and that business and service has been devastated. Small entrepreneurs have been devastated. But unfortunately that happened. But fortunately, we have in the human condition the ability to bounce back, and we have the ability to circumvent or at least embrace our circumstances and find opportunity and adversity and possibility and problems and joy in sadness. We have to, because if we don't, then it's just, I mean, why would we want to? I don't think we want to succumb to events that occur in our lives. I think we want to either a victim or a victor, and there's lots of things that happen, Sheila, that we have no control over. COVID is certainly a screaming example, but whatever has happened, you've got to make the most of it, because you realize, I think when things happen, you realize how delicate, tentative, and infinitesimal we are in the scope of the world forever, the universe, and you get very humbled, but you also get inspired. I think we become aware of everything: trees, lives, relationships, all kinds of things.
Yes, and you are the marketing expert. So I believe that even if you're a person listening in that doesn't have a business, we're all marketing in one aspect or another all the time. We even market to our children, really, to convince them to do their homework in a way. And so I'd love to hear some marketing advice for those listeners maybe that are rebooting their business or careers this year.
Well, I mean, there's everybody out there, because of COVID, with very few exceptions. There's some big winners, a lot of the online e-commerce companies, and obviously the Netflixes of the world. But most other companies are struggling to get back to where they were. They are always looking right now for ways to find opportunity. When it first started, I was interviewed a lot, Sheila, about windows of opportunity that people could capitalize on. And I think some of them are still available. First one is that there has never been a time, it's a little less now, when companies were willing to collaborate, partner, joint venture, because everyone is looking for additional revenue, income, and profit. So if you're not a business owner, but you have an interest in ancillary, supplementary, additional avocational income, you can find all kinds of businesses that would love to have other additions to their revenue. And if you can bring to them partnerships, and the partnerships I'm talking about is you step back and say, who else would benefit from the audience that a company has? So I'll give you an example. In the middle of the worst time in COVID, when some of the higher end restaurants couldn't even really practically do carry out, and the owners were just devastated, I had some people come to me and say, what can I do to help restaurants? And I said, well, if you think about it, a high-end restaurant normally has a very affluent clientele. The whoever's in the front of the restaurant can be the owner, the chef, has a very bonded relationship with those clients. If they have a database, whether it's email, whether it's phone numbers, whether it's anything, you could go to those restaurateurs and make collaborations available. For example, let's say you worked out a deal with a luxury car company to make preferential offers to their audience and give the restaurant a commission or a fee for anybody that buys, or a jewelry store, or any of a number of things, and people would structure those kind of arrangements. There's a lot of businesses out there that are frankly against the ropes. They're in trouble, and they've been just getting by, and they're probably in very dire condition. You can get control of those kind of businesses usually for no investment. And if you had 2 or 3 of them and you consolidated, or if you have a business and you can bring another business into it, and your existing fixed overhead can absorb it, meaning you have billing, you have collection, you have customer service, whatever it is, you can take a losing or a break-even business, and by absorbing it in yours, you could make a lot of money from it because you eliminate most of the fixed overhead. If you're not a business owner, you can go to any business independent and suggest they do that and offer to do it with them, for them, and either get a fee for doing it, get a percentage of the profit it produces. I mean, there's lots of really cool things. There's tons of people out there who are salespeople who have been, now they're coming back now, but they were diminished during COVID because they couldn't sell what they were selling. And I had people contacting them and getting them to work for their businesses strictly on commission, setting up deals for them. And there's lots of things you can do. We had a program we created many years ago called Master of Passive Income. And it taught 10 different, I don't do it anymore. We had taught 10 different profit pathways that an individual that wasn't a business owner could take advantage of. They could go to businesses, they could identify elements in that business that they could access for that business. And by just setting that up and doing it once, they could get paid over and over and over again for the revenue that would flow from that activity that they set up for the rest, or for the company. There's all kinds of things you can do. We have another, there's a concept I created years ago. It's a form of what I call options trading, but it's not the kind of options you would think of. It's options on assets or access. And I'll tell you a good example. Many years ago, a friend of mine moved to California from the East Coast, and he was an entrepreneur, but he didn't have a business, and he was looking to use what I'm about to discuss with you. And he found that the Rose Bowl, the big stadium that they play the Rose Bowl and that UCLA University plays their football games in was not being used at that time 85-90% of the time on weekends outside of the football season. And he went to the county that owned it and got the rights to use it in the off time on the off weekends as a flea market. And he got a long-term option to do it. He would have to only pay them a share of the revenue. And he had the rights in his agreement to bring in a partner. He didn't know anything about flea market, but with that contract in hand, he was able to go to the largest flea market management company. He got an advance payment of about $500,000 and an override on what they made. They paid the county. He made about $1 million a year just because he had the asset, which was the access to that property. So there's all kinds of things like that you can do if you understand it. And it's really exciting. And it's still true today. And when everybody is in search of more income, profit, revenue, anybody who can help provide it in a meaningful way can maybe not name their own deal, but they can set up deals and say, hey, I'll do this for you. Once it's said, I just want a share of the revenue it brings in forever or for a period of time. And you could do 10 of those, 20 of those. You can do them in your backyard. You can do them one industry. You can do them anywhere in the country or the world. It's pretty true around the world. And we've done those kind of things for people all over. There's a couple of ideas.
Definitely. I raised my family very close to the Rose Bowl. That's where I raised my family. And so I remember when those markets showed up, and then they had after school sports started going there as well. And so it was just a beautiful thing because it served everyone. It served the community, the Rose Bowl, your friend that got involved and connected that deal. Everyone really was better off for that. And one of my questions I have, Jay, is how do you start maybe knocking on those doors, connecting with those businesses, making the calls?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing is to realize that anything you do that you're not putting yourself in financial or life jeopardy, the downside is very low. It's just time and opportunity costs. So first thing is you shouldn't be fearful or afraid of trying things. Then depends on who you are and your knowledge base. If you don't have a lot of skill or knowledge, you obviously want to start small, safely, and where you'll be the most negotiable, which is to other smaller businesses. But you go out and try things. I mean, it's in this session, it's probably a little inadequate to give you a whole full-blown education. But depending on the kind of business, that businesses are going to have assets that you can help them monetize better. They might have active buyers that are only buying a few things from them, but have the ability and the need to buy other related things. And if you can make deals with people that sell those related things and make those deals available to the companies that have the buyers, you can be right in the middle. We call that being in the toll position. People have inactive buyers that if you can figure how to either get them to buy again or get them to buy something else, then you're bringing revenue for a sunk cost dormant asset. People have prospects that don't buy. People have products they only sell in one way. If you get them to sell through other people and do the opposite of what I'm saying, you can get a piece of both sides. A piece of the revenue you bring into the company that provides the product, a piece of the revenue you create for the company that sells the product. You can use the sales force to sell other products for people. You can put products on their website. If they have an email list, you can get them to, do a special offer. There's just a myriad of things you can do that don't cost anything. We used to many, many times find companies that were sitting with products, services, or capacity that wasn't being utilized. People had too much material inventory in a warehouse that wasn't being sold. If you could figure a way to sell it anywhere, they would be thrilled. People that had underutilized capacity. One time I did a deal with a acupuncturist who had underutilized capacity. We packaged all kinds of certificates. We sold to beauty service companies to gift to their clients high discounts. So they paid very little for the coupons, the certificates, but they were worth a lot. And we did that because the the acupuncturist knew that every time he got 2 new first-time users, one of them would come back 3 or 4 times and pay the $100 an hour. And we did that, and it was very, very successful. You can do things like that all day long with people and negotiate percentages of, if you sell the coupons or the certificates, percentages of the revenue that emerges from it. I mean, if it's a professional that can't give you shares because it's professionally illegal, you can still find ethical ways to get compensated. There's just a multitude of things people can do.
I'd love for you to share about the Icy Hot sports cream medicine and how you were able to market that and really bring it to market with a very low marketing cost.
Yeah, and it's the product today that everybody knows, Icy Hot, but back then it was a mail order product. We sold it by mail, and we went to 1,000 radio stations, television stations, magazines, newspapers, and we made arrangements that anytime they had unsold advertising capacity, if they would run ads for us and sell our product, which at that time sold for $3 a jar, we would let them keep all the money. And we basically knew that every time we got 10 new buyers, 8 of them would buy every month forever. So we had a very little cost to send it out. We would absorb the little cost because it was a lot less expensive than wasting it on advertising that we paid for that may or may not have worked. And we built about 500,000 buyers in about 1 year and 3 months. And we got about, by today's standards, $150 million of no-cost advertising. And the product became so popular and in demand that it moved from a mail order. Everybody started going to their grocers and their pharmacies and asking for it. And everyone started calling us and buying the product to stock in their stores. And it became a consumer product that was sold in the stores. And back today, a retail product isn't as valuable as an e-commerce product. But back then, a retail product was far more valuable than a mail order product. And we were able to sell the company for tens of millions of dollars in a matter of about 2 years. And we only paid 20 grand for the business to start off. So, I mean, there's all kinds of cool things you can do, whether you are a businessman or woman yourself, whether you are a salesman or woman yourself, whether you just have entrepreneurial aspirations and you've been thinking you had to have a lot of money to be able to do anything to make money. You don't. You just have to know how to capitalize on other people's assets, on other people's distribution channels, on other people's buyer base. And if you understand that, you can do all kinds of wonderful things.
Wow, that is incredible. And how is that different today? What have you found is the difference in how business is done? Would you say it's still the same for connecting, or is there a difference?
Well, a ton of it's now moved online, but I mean, online, you've got people that have databases, you got people that have websites, you got people that do podcasts. All that are opportunities to partner. You got people that have salespeople. You got people that got different defined types of buyers that could buy other things you could partner with. You've got people that have platforms that you can partner with. You've got, lots of different kinds of businesses that have been created that didn't exist when I started. And the good news is the more specialized the type of business, the more what I'll call ancillary opportunity you have. You have to ask yourself, what else would people buy, first of all, before, during, after, or instead of what they buy from a specific company? Because that answer can give you all kinds of other things you could bring to them to sell, or you could bring their product to sell through other companies that sell those answers. You also could say, what else do the buyers of those products buy? That is expanded. And if you ask all those questions, you should get dozens of answers, maybe more. And every one of those answers is a path to prosperity if you wish to take advantage of it.
So that is so good. And one of the questions that I have is, what advice would you give if there was a business owner listening in who is deciding, should I stay or should I go? What would be the strategic 90-day plan to make that business decision?
Well, I mean, it's a pretty macro question. I think the first thing is, can I leverage other people's assets? I mean, I don't know about today, but in the middle of COVID, radio stations, you're on radio, but they were literally not getting much advertising because their advertising base was functionally closed or weren't operating. And I helped about 500 radio stations do all kinds of collaborations, partnerships with people to sell things and share in the revenue. Today, it may not be the same. Maybe they've all bounced back. I'm not as deeply involved in the radio business as I was a year ago. But the point is that if you have a business, the first thing is, if it's not doing well, can you get anyone else to help you sell your product through or to their audience? Can you get any media to market for you? And instead of speculating on advertising, tie your payment to them on results that are generated and that can be measured? Can you get salespeople to take your product or service to markets that you're not penetrating? Can you get anybody online to sell it to their audience? Can you do anything to get your current or inactive buyers to buy anything else that would monetize for you? Can you add other products or services to what you sell? I mean, can you acquire some other related businesses that you can operate from your facility so that you eliminate a lot of that other business's fixed overhead and can make, or can you just buy their buyers and service them? Can you buy their salespeople and have them sell for you? Can you buy their proprietary products and sell them? So there's just a multitude of things. If you ask yourself, the answers frequently, not always, but frequently open up enormous opportunity. And you don't have to have any more money to capitalize on it. You just have to have the vision and the wherewithal to know how to take advantage of that kind of opportunity.
I love that. Now, how about for real estate agents?
Well, real estate agents, the best thing that a real estate agent can do is develop a multitude of methods for generating referrals. It's the best, and most real estate agents get, if they're any good, you know this from your background, they get some portion or maybe the majority or maybe the entirety of their business from referrals or word of mouth. But most of them, frankly, don't have formalized, systematized, meaningfully adhered to referral generating processes, systems, strategies, methods that they follow all the time. So the first thing is you put referral systems in place and you follow them. It will normally, and every time you have any interaction with a client, every time you ever communicate with a past client, you have a systematic way to help them identify people in their lives. Because, the great thing about houses today, that. I don't know what it's probably skewed because of COVID, but it was something like every 8 years people move. And now with more dynamism, whether it's divorce, retirement, downsizing, upsizing, kids moving back home, kids moving out, divorces, kids, getting started. There's just such dynamism. So if you have referral systems, almost everybody that knows anybody within the course of, I don't know if it's 3 months or 6 months, will most logically know directly or indirectly of a multitude of people that are either buying or selling for primary residence, secondary residence, or investment. And that opens up a massive possibility, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And one of the great memories I have is attending your breakthrough events. I'd love for you to share about that process a little bit with the audience, the mastermind breakthrough events.
Yeah. Well, before COVID, and we're going to start again, we're going to do a couple of them virtual, but we used to do 3-day events at one of my homes, and we would have 20 or 30 people attend, and they would each pay $25,000 a piece. And in the course of that 3-day process, we would take every individual participant and we would evaluate their business on a number of criteria: their strategy, their business model, their marketing approach, their value proposition, their revenue system, their positioning, their ancillary income strategy. And we would literally transform it in the course of the weekend. And it was pretty powerful, still is. I just haven't done any in the last couple of months. And people would go back to their daytime lives and their businesses, and they would basically apply all the things that came out of it. And probably even more interesting, even though we're working on each company separately, they'd get to watch us work on all the other ones. And typically 90% of the insights or advice we would give to all the others had direct or indirect application to everybody. So if you can imagine this enormously powerful compression chamber that is basically transforming an entrepreneur, business owner, or professional's mindset in real time in a mere 3 days, and totally changing their worldview, their business worldview, and giving them outrageously expanded capability and changing, their marketing, their positioning, their strategy, their value proposition, their everything. That's what we do, and it's pretty powerful. It's one of the things we do.
Yes, it was one of my favorite mastermind events to attend.
Thank you.
So if you have someone that's had to change careers and they are now just getting started, what would you suggest they do to safely get started in a new industry?
Well, I mean, there's many ways. It depends on urgency and economic need. If you need to move into something that is going to make you an equivalent or a superior income to that which you were making pre-COVID, then you probably need to get career training, because I don't know that things are going to have that rapidity. If you're not, I would say that you could get control of a business. I mean, we have a friend that's all he teaches, how to buy businesses with no out-of-pocket investment and no real risk, and let them buy themselves. So you can buy a lot of businesses, and if you know marketing and strategy and this kind of partnering concepts I taught, you can turn a marginal business into a profitable one very quickly, and you can certainly operate it for profit, but you probably could do that and flip them for a lot more than the profit they would earn you. In other words, if a business sells for, I don't know, let's say 6 times earnings and you get control of it for nothing, and then you make an extra $100,000, you just made yourself $600,000 if you sell it. And every time you do that, you can do that over and over again. When you learn all the mechanisms that somebody like I teach, you can become a salesperson. People don't understand selling is a wonderful profession, and you can get control of lots of things. Probably the least opportunity is going to be getting a job selling. A better opportunity is going to people that don't even have salespeople and getting the rights to be an external salesperson for them, because you can do lots of things. Many companies only, pardon my voice, they only generate their business from one area activity approach. Most of them do not have a sales force, do not have any sales representation. If you go to those companies and say, I would like to buy the rights for external selling, and you do you keep doing your online stuff, you keep doing your radio advertising. I want to be able to go out into markets, set up partners, call on people and sell your product or service direct. And I want to get a negotiated amount of profit. And you got 2 things you can do. First is you can figure it out yourself and do it. You don't have to do anything. You can be the equivalent of Tom Sawyer whitewashing the fence. Anybody who knows, the Mark Twain story, and you can get other people to do it, and you can make an override. You can take the right that you've just secured and sell it to somebody else, like the guy did the flea market, and make a very nice living setting up accounts that keep buying and selling your stuff over and over again. You can do all kinds of things. You could do it, set it up, then get another deal. When you're independent, you're not tied to anyone. If you work for a company, you are limited to, usually, if they're a good company, they'll give you a salary or a draw, and they'll give you commission. But you're going to normally, if you don't need that money short term, the price you pay for the perception of security is opportunity, meaning if you're going to make most of your money on commission anyhow, working for a company, they're going to give you this much commission. If you go to a company that doesn't have a salesperson, you can say, I want to sell this product and I want half of the profit, because it's all incremental. It's found money you never would have had. And as long as the company you go to has the ability to produce and sell a near infinite amount of product, and there's no real limitations, you should be able to convince them that 50% of profit on sales they never would have had is a heck of a deal. But making 50% means that every sale you would make at 50% is 5 times more profitable to you than working for a company that gives you 10%. And most companies, if you're commission, after a while, your draw is gone anyhow. And even if you get it every month, they're not going to give you a huge draw normally, are they?
Right. No.
They're going to give you a little draw. So again, if you have the wherewithal to not worry about the startup mode, I would rather get control of products that I'd have permanent participation on, because you can sell them, you can bring other people in and give them 30% instead of 50. You can do all kinds of things.
That sounds fun.
Yes. I don't realize it. I mean, the big problem with most people is they need so much, not just structure, but concreteness, that they don't have the wherewithal to see how to harness and harvest opportunity that exists in other places.
I agree. I remember my house burned down in 2017 in Ventura, the California fires. I lost my house, my car, and even my cat. And my friend said, oh, now that you're living in this little cabin in the hills, maybe you should just go work at the grocery store, get a little part-time job or a full-time job, and get an apartment. And I was like, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to pay my bills. And 2 months later, I had done all kinds of different things and, working with real estate and different renting places out, different things, kind of like what you're saying, working with different types of businesses. And I was in my own house and bought another car, and everything was great since. So those friends came back to me and they said, wow, Sheila, I didn't know you could do all that. And they said, we'll never doubt you again in business. So that's just a different mentality that some people have.
Yeah. And the truth of the matter is, all security really is faith, confidence you have in yourself and your ability to perform. Because ironically, in any job we hold, we're on commission anyhow. The commission may not be earnings, but it's productivity. When we stop producing enough yield to the employer that exceeds by a big enough margin what they pay us, they either want to reduce our pay or get rid of us, don't they?
Exactly.
So if you're on commission anyhow, you might as well get the maximum current and residual outcome or income you can from time and effort. And it requires you to just think differently about your relationship with commerce, because every human being is on commission. You really are. I mean, if you're, no matter what you do, there's a certain metric that you're being judged on all the time. That's your draw, isn't it?
Yes.
And if you don't exceed your draw, you're not going to keep getting it, are you?
Not at all.
No. So, I mean, if you think about it, it's no different, except for you can negotiate a lot more residual yield by getting control of things than you'll ever make by working for somebody.
Yes, and I'm wondering, have you ever worked with collaborations between non-profits businesses and for-profit businesses, and what was that like? Did that work out?
Years ago I did, but I haven't done nonprofits. Years ago there were different laws, and the laws allowed nonprofits to pay a large portion of the first donation that people could get in exchange for securing for them new donors who would donate over and over again. So there were a large number of people, and I participated in some of those activities. We would ethically get to keep the first donation. So if we could get you to donate $100, we got to keep it all, because the nonprofit wanted you redonating over and over again and upgrading your donation. I did something one time with a nonprofit where we got people to donate items that then I cash converted for them, and I got I can't remember, it was 20% of the cash. So nonprofit would get their members to donate art, cars, jewelry, and then I organized all the marketing to get the donations, but then I had a contract with the nonprofit to get them fair market cash conversion for all those, and I had I think a 20% of the proceeds I got to retain for doing it.
Nice. So the barter system, do you still use the barter system a lot? It sounds like that might be something.
Yeah, I just did. I just got, it's a little bit arrogant sounding, but a week ago Monday, a truck delivered to me a brand new Acura NSX, if you know what that is. It's sort of like a Ferrari, and it's not quite as expensive. And I did a trade for that. My wife drives a Mercedes G63 wagon that I traded for 2 years ago. I have a Mercedes GTS, which is a very unusual version. It's a sports car that I traded for. I trade my services for all kinds of things. I might be getting a muscle car from somebody else who wants my help. We have all kinds of things in our home. I've traded for art. I have probably, Jesus, $2 million worth of art. You've been in my house.
Yeah.
All of the art in my house I traded for. And I've traded I've set up for companies barter profit centers where they would trade their products or services for other products or services that I would then convert to cash for them. And because the companies I helped had a cost basis that was much lower for the products or services that they provided, we would take the products or services that we received and cash convert them, meaning we would sell them for cash and usually get between 50 and 75% of the market value. But if the products or service we exchanged only cost us 40% of that, we would make 30 or 40% on it. It's a little complicated to understand, but hey, you can trade for your own account. You can trade for profit, anything that your company would pay. If you have a company and you have any payables, that anything you would do, whether it's advertising, whether it's carpeting, whether it's cleaning, whether it's heating and air conditioning installation or repair, you can trade your products or services for that and reduce your cash costs by, whatever your margins are. So there's all kinds of things you can do if you have agility of thinking and understanding relative value.
And I want to read some comments and questions that are coming in for you. Okay, so I have somebody that says, hello, Shankar. She says, I am a preacher in a charity and help needy people, but now her services are closed. What advice do you have for any religious groups that are trying to get back on track this year?
Can't hold services. Then the question is, what products or services, not religious services, but services, can you make available to your congregation that you can monetize so at least you have your finances flowing? How many other ways can you disseminate your good work, whether it's, through a, maybe a more of a podcast or a Zoom or whatever this, the vehicle is. So, you can do all of that. Can you go through all your congregation members and see any entrepreneurs there that you can do any of these things for and help them and use the proceeds you create either to fund your overhead, to fund your lifestyle, or to fund some of these vehicles that'll let you reach your congregation and expanded ones through other vehicles like Zoom or marketing things. You have to realize this: whatever the perceived problem, there's always a solution for it.
Yes, that is so helpful. And let's see here. Another question that's come in is, how can I incorporate my young... Okay, so they have a beauty supply type business, and they also have a window cleaning business. Is there a way that those two can tie together?
No, but they could take the window cleaning business, which is probably mostly labor, and trade it to people that need a lot of window cleaning. Maybe you can go to a car dealership and say, we'll do your windows, and it's normally, you might say maybe it's a $60,000 a year service, and we'll trade you for 2 cars. The dealer is buying the service at a discount because he or she has at least 15% in the cars. You can, if they don't want to trade even, if you as the window cleaning company have a lower cost to fulfill, let's say your real hard cost on my hypothetical 60,000 is only 20, you could trade abnormally. In other words, you could say, I'll trade $60,000 worth of window cleaning for $40,000 worth of cars. If you got $40,000 worth of cars, you could sell it tomorrow for 30 or 35 because it's under market. And now you'd make right away, you'd get prepaid the $15,000 profit on the $20,000 of cost you have to put out over the rest of the year. So you could do things like that all day long. If you have in your beauty supply business expenses, maybe if you didn't want to stay in your current location, or you did, you could go to the landlord and say, I will provide window cleaning to either the shopping center or each client, however it is, in exchange for reduction or elimination of my rent.
Mm-hmm. Very helpful. Wow, that was really good. Just see, that's just one industry. That's incredible, Jay. So let's see, another question that, of course, everybody says they want to invest in you and get your art. Somebody says, let me buy your art. Oh, that's cute. So yeah, so that's something that happens, that being creative is out of a lot of people's comfort zone in business. There's a lot of fear to that. What can make people, I guess, help them to make those first steps, or accept the no's that show up? You're going to ask how many people, I don't know what the percentage is, you have to call so many people in order to actually get a yes in whatever it is. Uh-huh.
I'm looking for one call that I might interrupt you for 1 minute.
Okay.
But say the questioning. Oh, you talked about creativity and rejection. There were two parallel universes. Am I right?
Yes. And actually, when you first start this process of collaborating with different businesses or trying to barter, there's going to be a lot of no's many times before you get to a yes. How do you overcome those no's and keep going? What do you suggest for people just starting to get into this concept?
Let's look at human nature. How many times do people approach you and you say no? It's okay, but most everything is a combination of numbers game and the proposition you're making. Mm-hmm. So I always say, when you're starting out, start out with target audiences that if they reject you, it's not the end of the world. So you don't want to go to the biggest companies. You want to go. So make propositions that are easy theoretically to say yes to. Know that if you have, if whatever you're doing has enough economic significance to it, if you are successful, mm-hmm. you don't need very many wins to make it work.
Thank you for tuning in. This is NBC's Sheila Mack Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Forbes magazine called him the real thing and lists Jay as one of the top 5 executive coaches in the country.
Seeing you again, or hearing you, depending on what form people are experiencing this. But yeah, it's a pleasure.
There's such a connection between industries. I'm doing media with radio, and I also am now working with a magazine company, the local magazines that you see with the families on the cover in your community. And so those are two things that are not connected, but they're really connected. And many of the people end up on the show or sharing about their business through a sponsorship opportunity that way, as well as in print media. What do you think about print media and advertising? What would you suggest? How would you diversify or stand out in today's very interesting economy and time?
Well, I think people who read print are probably very, very responsive people. Not as many, but probably a sort of core. We're experimenting right now with Inc. magazine, Forbes magazine, the business section of the Sunday New York Times, and a couple of others. And what we try to do is, for the first, pardon my voice, For the first test stage, we try to negotiate a very advantageous price. We also want to do something that if we get a good enough price is very stunning. For example, I'm getting ready to run 4 pages in Inc. magazine, not one, but 4 together. I'm getting ready to run a 2-page ad in Wall Street Journal. And they're all designed to literally gain maximum attention and engagement from the audience we want to reach. We know that there's a lesser audience, but we believe the audience that reads is the audience that we can impact the most, because I tend to like long, well-developed propositions. Mm-hmm. But it depends. One of the things I learned in my life was testing, testing, testing. It's a very wonderful way, because you can try, as long as you control the risk that you're taking, you can try a lot of hypotheses, suppositions, and experiments. And if you lose on many, when you find the winners, it makes up for them all. And it's just, you have to, before you do it, you have to understand the dynamics. In other words, if you're going to use a magazine or a newspaper, you better, first of all, understand keenly the audience. Mm-hmm. You better analyze what has been advertised frequently enough that is more direct responsive, so you can see advertisers that have to justify the investment. If they're not competitive, you should call them and verify your assumptions that they are making money from those ads, because a lot of times people don't know. Mm-hmm. And then what they charge as far as their rate is frequently far above what the incremental cost is. We try to always get, what we tell people is this: we want a great first rate because we're trying something that may not work. Right. But we agree to report completely results, and we give them a mean that we're happy with, or just mm-hmm. What would I call it? A minimum base. If we hit that, we say we'll run it every week, every month, as long as it keeps doing that at full rate. And we mm-hmm. give them incentive for making it advantageous. We say we'll run something very dramatic and impressive, and you could have editorial approval. It won't be anything that's schlocky. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to lose, but I'm going to lose less than what your published rate is. Right. If it wins, you're going to win as well as me, because I'll keep running, and as long as the numbers justify, I'll be happy to pay more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And the company I work with now in that magazine, that's nationwide actually, and in Canada, they actually have people that started when the business started, I think 17 years ago, that are still advertising with them, because obviously it pays. Yeah, and so that's for that target audience, and it's for small businesses. So it really works.
Yeah, and you have to have alignment. I mean, your message has to be in alignment with the market and the media. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the thing is, if you don't market, then you better have an enormous referral or word of mouth, or you better be in a location where there's enormously high volume or high quality traffic of the profile that you need as buyers. And if you don't have that, you better find them. Mm-hmm. They're not gonna, I mean, the world won't beat a path to you unless you've got a reason why they need to do it. Either your location is fabulous, your product service is unique, and everyone talks about it, you got tons of referrals, or you're a very good external marketer.
Yes, that's
or
very
you have a salesperson selling it for you in the outside market, but it's not just going to happen.
No, it's good to have a team helping on the sales part, really to expand. Now, for branding, there's marketing and there's branding. So for branding, for really getting your name out there, it takes so many times for somebody to see the name, to get the message before they actually connect with a business, a new business, let's just say. What is the secret or difference between marketing and branding, and what approach would you suggest for this time in our...
Well, there's a shortcut to making your brand prominent, and that is to partner with other people that have the buyer audience you want, giving them a chance to endorse you in a way that makes you credible, and that endorser is in essence affixing their credibility, their trust to your company and whatever brand position you take, and giving that endorser a generous enough correlated compensation, meaning compensation that you can tie to whatever they do and whatever comes from it for a period of time, so that they're motivated. But if you get 3 or 4 other entities, enterprises, companies, influencers who have the trust of the market you're trying to reach to endorse you to their market, that can create rapid, if not almost overnight, brand significance.
Wow, that's a good secret. So for somebody starting out, they might not be able to go to the biggest brand, but even just to
you go to somebody that has an audience that is the audience you want, and you start small. But if tomorrow morning, ice cream store, and it was really unique, maybe I could go to people that sold non-ice cream food products and get them to tell their people that when they're done eating the main course, consider going there. Give them coupons to give away. Give them anything, and figure a way to pay them very, very, very generously in the beginning, because once they used their access to their market to build my brand currency, meaning the quality of my brand to people and the awareness and the desirability, I'm going to make all the repeat sales. I'm going to make all the preferred sales. I'm going to make all the word of mouth sales. So who cares if you pay a lot in the beginning? If you if you can pay for results instead of advertising, you're always going to be better off, because you'll never pay a penny out until you get a result in first.
That makes so much sense. I can go back to when I opened my first gift store in Montrose, California. It was 5,000 square feet, and I wanted the building next to all the restaurants. Okay. All the other stores closed at 5 p.m. And I stayed open until 11 when the restaurants closed, and I had music and free tea and little cookies to give out, and people would come in and they'd meander around and they'd buy a bunch of stuff and they'd leave. And it took a couple years for the other stores to catch on and actually start staying open late. So that it paid for me to buy a building instead of continuing to rent.
That's very smart. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that was fun. And so that's an example. It didn't cost me anything different. The rent was the same 3 blocks down away from the restaurants.
I love it.
So yeah, so there's so many different ways to do that. Now,
let's take, for example, my suggestion of window cleaning for a strip shopping center. Okay. So if you're in a teeny tinier city, it's not going to make sense. But if you're in any kind of a decent city, and you could go to, let's say in that city, there's 100 strip shopping centers, right?
Right.
If you went to every one and you only got 3 to say yes, now you'd have three agreements that you could exercise. You don't have to. 3 agreements you could exercise where you were trading, let's say, rent for 3 years for window cleaning for 3 years. Now you might say, well, I only have one facility. Well, you have choices. Choice 1 is you open more, because it would cost you a lot less than you would normally, because you don't need the capital outlay, right? And you might be able to get your vendors to provide inventory. If you say, I'll secure a 3-year rent if you provide me with startup inventory on a return privilege, meaning if it doesn't sell, I can send it back. Or you could flip that space to someone else for under market and get cash, right? Or you could use that space and give it to somebody who's got a very successful single location. And if they opened another one, you could split profits by waiving any rent to them because you have now the use of this space, right?
Right.
So you have a lot of options. And the last option is if it doesn't make economic sense, you don't go forward.
Mm-hmm. And then there's that thing about sometimes you get a no and it's really a maybe or not right now.
That's right. Yeah. Well, the first thing that I always do when people turn me down is go, if I want the deal, I'll say, I hear what you're saying, but I sense I haven't conveyed enough of the value and the benefit to you. So what I'm going to do is either come back to you with a renewed approach, or I'm going to stay in touch because I suspect as you think about it over time, you will reconsider. And if you don't, I suspect you have in your realm of contacts other people who might be benefited from this. And I always program them. To me, I look at it like a positive Chinese water torture. It's only a matter of time before the people you want to deal with will deal with you. Mm-hmm. And tenacity is an attribute if you use it strategically. Most people use it in a tormenting way. In other words, if I just keep writing you and writing you and writing you, you're going to go, oh, that's an irritant. But if every time I communicate with you, I introduce perspective that is actually has merit, causes provocative thinking in you, identifies implications that make my past proposition that you, let's say, tentatively rejected, because I don't think a no is absolutely a no. I think it's only an interim refusal, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And by keeping going back in a more inventive way, you will win a surprising number of previous rejections and turn them around. And even if you don't, you will be able to develop your ability to present your proposition from a multitude of different points of view or implications, which will help refine your ability to synthesize all those approaches into the best presentation or pitch you can use in the future.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds great and so true.
And well, there's another approach. If you were going to do anything in life, if you were going to go for a new career, you would have to invest a lot of time, effort, and money, wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. So if you say that the potential rejections I need to experience to perfect and refine and evolve my presentation skills is a far cry less than the investment of time, effort, or money I would have to invest in anything else I would do that would be designed to make me money.
That's really good.
It is
very powerful.
It's a new way of looking at it, isn't it? So, I mean, and people that are very, very analytical about rejection, that really get the mechanism and get relatively good at presenting, they don't look at rejection as defeat. They look at it every time I get 8 rejections, I get 1 sale. So they don't look at, so if a sale is worth X, let's say I'm selling something that has, let's use a very easy, that had, let's say 1 out of 10 buy, okay? And I get rejected from 9. Statistical probability, it may not happen, but the 10th one buys and it's a $10,000 profit. Everyone who says no is actually worth, if you look at it, $1,000 to me.
Yes.
So different ways of looking at it to mitigate the negativity in it. But I mean, I always say if you met that person again, they probably wouldn't even know you if you did it on the phone. If you did it in person, if you did it with panache and aplomb, meaning you did it qualitatively and charismatically and authoritatively, even if they turn you down, you might be actually creating a positive enough relationship that you could go right back to that same person in a matter of days or weeks with a totally different proposition that if you articulated it well, they might buy into.
That is so
Setting
helpful.
up the next move. If you think about life, think about business life like real billiards, not pocket billiards, but the ones that have no pockets, where every move you make is designed to set up the next move and the next.
I'm wondering, you also raised a big family. How did you, for people with a big family or families right now, and especially with COVID, they've had to coordinate business and family life even more than ever, working from home. What advice do you have for people that are dealing with this new family and work situation?
Well, I think the first is try to appreciate each other's reality, because it's hard on everybody. And try to support each person's reality. I spent, and I haven't gotten motivated to go back to my office very much now, but I spent the year here in the wine cellar, which is very nice. But my wife used to have autonomy and control of the house, and now I'm here and I'm getting on her nerves and I'm making a mess and I'm using all the rooms. So I try to be sensitive. Because we spend more time together, I try to appreciate things that she's interested in that maybe I haven't been, and support those. Watch shows she wants to watch. She likes a lot of old English kings and things like that. And I never did, but I watched them with her. She likes to discuss world events, and I really wasn't that big into it, but I do it because I think it's important to her. And I don't think my mind alone is all that's important. And I think the more you try to appreciate that everyone is having an awkward time, and that you try to be focused on others and celebrate it and contribute, and not be, oh, I'm not going to be that. Do the opposite. Try to be very, very collaborative with them. I think that's better. Try to, spend time, quality time, listening, talking, being interested. Use it as time to regenerate the relationship, whether it's to your loved one, to your children. Develop hobbies, if you will. One of the things I think that happens, and some people don't have the luxury I do. I have a very large home and I have a very nice backyard, a lot of foliage. So I sometimes find myself appreciating the trees and the growth that I've had for 30 years, but never paid attention to.
Yes.
And I think that if you really start appreciating your environment and the people in it, instead of resenting it, it makes it a lot easier, don't you think?
It's kind of the energy that you bring to, whether you're at home or in the office, there's an energy that shows up with you, and it affects everyone around. So you think of when you have a negative kind of energy person come in, it's like everybody in the office is like, whoa, it's so-and-so, oh no. And so that energy really makes a difference. And I honestly, when I had those gift stores, I would tell the people that worked with me, if you don't want to be here today, do not come in, because the clients will feel the energy and they will not buy.
Yeah,
and it was true. Yes, that made all the difference. It wasn't worth me paying them, to be honest, when they were there.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. I love that. Yeah, sure. No, it's you're asking good questions. I like this.
Yes, and I have another question that came in from a Facebook. They don't have a name here. It says Facebook user, so I think they're just not connected with me directly. It says, I've got a few online courses which should be perfect for solving current challenges. However, sales needs a boost. Any suggestions or tips on making the marketing clearer or more enticing for online courses? And there's so many going on right now. So
yeah, I mean, I think you have to see, what is the buyer you're trying to reach? What is the issue you're trying to either solve, or the opportunity you're trying to make possible? And what are they getting and not getting from others? Look up all the people who are selling anything similar and look up the reviews people give them, the good and the bad, and look at the language patterns, because that will help you in your marketing. It'll help you articulate what you are and what you're not, and what you know they want and what you know they are frustrated they haven't gotten. And, if you can find other companies selling other kinds of courses that are not competitive to you, maybe you can partner with them and have them either sell your courses separately or make a deal with them where they pay you a usage fee to make your course a bonus. Or if the course isn't that expensive, maybe make it a lead generator for people that have something much more expensive, and find other ways to monetize it.
Nice. That's great. So so there's a lot of different coaches and authors out there that I'm connected to. What would you suggest for them overall as far as getting their message out when we weren't able to have book tours? We're not able to do certain things, or we have to do things only online and differently. Do you have any suggestions for that group?
Yeah, I think that you just have to find people that already have your audience and collaborate with them. It's a very safe way. And you have to make, the only way they'll collaborate is if you make it very well worth their while. And if you're chintzy, you shouldn't be surprised if they won't do it. You have to look at, most people go, oh, I'll give you 10% of sales when they're making on a course, for example, 99%. And I would say, why would anyone want to do that? Why don't you look at it from a different paradigm? If you get somebody to help you sell 20 programs to their audience that you never would have had, that's 20 times whatever your program sells for, 500, 1,000, that you'd never have had. So sharing half of that costs you nothing. It makes you $5,000. Sharing 60% costs you nothing. It makes you $4,000. Sharing 70% costs you nothing. It makes you $3,000, doesn't it?
Yes. And then people are aware of your products, your book, your courses, and they can connect with you further from there. But if you don't get your foot in the door, you're kind of stuck. You get nothing.
And you get buyers you can resell other things to down the road. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people have a very linear and unilateral sort of a mindset where they don't really understand what the dynamics in play are. And so they don't get a good outcome because they don't approach it from the right mindset.
Yes. Now, you have some programs that you were sharing recently. I attended one of them. So that was online. Can you share about some of those things that you are doing now to help people with their businesses?
Well, I mean, I have different initiatives. There's a partner of mine that makes very affordable things. We've done challenges. We have a program that's called Small Moves, Big Profits. They're easy, safe things you do a little differently, and they produce all kinds of increased revenue and profit for you. We have programs on we have 100 ways to generate referrals. We have another program. It's 100 ways to do joint ventures. We have an expensive program on how to grow your business profits beyond exponential. We have programs on our website that are everything from creating your own business success and giving you ways to start a business to how to build a power practice. I have lots of different programs, but we do a lot of modest ones for people who are on limited budgets and need somebody they can trust. And then we have subscription programs that are modest. Then I work with clients privately, and I'm not inexpensive. I'm relatively costly. So most people probably wouldn't be, unless, if they're significant, I'd love, to tell them about my services, but they're very expensive and not really affordable to a lot of people.
Yes. So one of the things that I've seen over the years, because I've been watching your programs and actually attending many events, masterminds, Tony Robbins Platinum event that you were at, and your breakthrough. And I've seen people that have started with maybe the lowest price, and then they apply. When they do the application, the next thing you know, they're in the bigger rooms, because it actually, your advice actually gives results. And so that's the difference. It is more than wonderful to be able to start wherever you are and not overspend, but apply. What suggestions do you have as far as people going from attending things, whatever it is, because there's so many things to attend right now, at your programs, everybody else's, attending them, but actually doing the application?
The big challenge to people is implementation and execution. And they get intimidated. They get intimidated by complexity. They get intimidated by self-doubt. They get intimidated by even the thought of being more successful, even though that seems contrary to why they do it. But I think I always say divide and conquer. You start with the easiest thing you can do that could win, not the biggest. So you get validation that the concept you got from whoever you learned it from is viable and that you're worthy. And then you keep taking that success and parlaying it. It took you until today to get to where you are. So thinking you're going to make $1 trillion in your underwear overnight watching Oprah, with one eye is probably a little bit delusional.
Right.
And okay, I just want to get started. If I only make $100 on this one, if I only make $500 on this one, but I'm going to keep doing it until I get it systematic, continuous, sequential, and then you do that. And when you start doing that, wonderful things happen. But there's a great quote, Sheila: more is accomplished through movement than will ever be accomplished through meditation.
Yes. That makes all the difference. That is so true. And I think there's something in, sometimes we do things and it doesn't work out, and there's even more value in that lesson or learning.
You think about it. There was a famous athlete I used to help. Most people won't know him, so it doesn't matter. But he failed publicly in Super Bowls and in critical games, and he turned out to be massively successful post-career in business. And he wrote a book that failure isn't permanent, just a temporary thing. Tony said it, Tony Robbins, you can change your life in a heartbeat. You can change the direction. But trying things, if it doesn't work, the biggest problem most people have when they blindly go into something is they don't step back and say, why didn't it work? If it's a concept that has been proven, did I execute, articulate, direct it? If it's one that's not proven, is there a safer, easier, better way? If I get horrific rejection, it's not horribly negative. It just tells you to go in a different direction, doesn't it? When I was young, there was a very popular toy that people got at holiday time, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever your religious celebration. And it was manifest many ways. It was a robot. I would get from my parents a big ladybug that was that big, but it had in the base of it a interesting mechanism where when it walked into a wall, it would turn 25 degrees, it would turn a quarter the other way. And you could point it, if this is radio, you don't see me, I'm pointing behind myself, and giving enough turns, it would end up going out a door to my right over time. Well, if you look at everything you do that doesn't work as a directive to go a different route, then it's all going to get you to a bigger outcome as long as you stay in the game.
That's like that Tony saying makes all the difference. So that when you think that you are at the bottom and you can't do anything else, the rock bottom, like my book talks about, it's actually when you're really close and you just got to keep going. And it's really hard because I think this year everybody's had some kind of surprise rock bottom that we never expected. We couldn't even fathom the crazy things that are going on. So that makes a big difference. I have somebody else that wrote in right now, and they say, Thank you for the tip about the profit share, and the 40-50% was also great. I'll apply that to a few of the popular programs and the online. Okay. Oh, I know who that is. An online photo reading and fearless public speaking. I know that's a friend from London. So, yes, and she's been to some of your events too. So yes, that's great. Okay. So that makes a big difference. And I think now we're connecting globally. I know you're international. Do you have any suggestions for that change where because we're online, we're able to connect with people from London? I have London and Australia on right now, all these different countries.
Whatever you are selling, I mean, you have the chance, as long as it's legal, to, to deliver it either in a service form or in a physical form anywhere in the world. You can sell anywhere in the world. It's really great because in the past, in order to sell internationally or nationally outside of a locale, you needed facilities, you needed rent and people. Now, because of e-commerce and virtual communication and webinars and Zoom and Facebook Live and Instagram and all these things, you can sell anywhere you want in the world that people can buy. And as long as you can economically and legally get the product or service into their hands, literally or figuratively, the world is your oyster, and you can compete now. I mean, you can compete with the largest corporations. You can compete with companies 100 times your size. So it's a matter of your ingenuity, your marketing capability, and your belief, and that you have the ability to identify an audience and target them. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the cost of traveling, as much as I love to hug people and see people in person, obviously we all do, but the cost to travel to another country and maybe like go to Dubai or something, it's what, 20 some odd hours, and you're flying and you're exhausted, and then you've got to do the event and you've got to pay for the hotel.
It's very efficient. This is terrible. I need 2 minutes to sell somebody something. Can you?
We can keep going, and go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, and I do have to stop in a short period, but I can go for a little longer. But I just have to do something. Be right back.
Okay. All right. So Jay will be right back. And if you have any more questions that you would like me to ask, just message in or send them into www.dearsheila.com. And I have someone looking at and reviewing questions there. So always happy to ask your questions. And Jay makes so many incredibly good points about business. And I think that there's something that happens when we let go of that fear of rejection, when we start connecting, even in our community, even in small ways, we're able to have friendships with other business owners and then collaborate and all enjoy helping serve clients in a better way. So that's something that I've been applying since I heard Jay speak, and he can just give you so many ideas. You've got to take notes every time you listen to Jay talking about that. But I want to just share a little memory. I attended his Breakthrough Mastermind program. It was, when you read about the mastermind that Napoleon Hill actually talks about in the Think and Grow Rich book, it was kind of that same experience. There were so many people, businesses sharing ideas and collaborating, and we're all still friends today from that one weekend program. And that made such a difference in my business and career and thought process, as well as just being able to connect and collaborate and hear different ideas that had nothing to do with what I was doing for business, but gave me ideas to apply to what I was doing. And that really, really made a big difference for me personally. So that was incredible, and something that hopefully you'll all be able to experience at some point in one way or another. So
yeah, I am back.
I was just bragging about your incredible breakthrough event and the experience that I had. And so I have a couple, and I asked for some more questions. So I have Alan here, Alan Burke, and he says, I read Jay's Mediocrity to Millions PDF, and I would like to ask him, I would like to travel the world and work with clients globally. How do I accept payment online or digital wire transfer? That's online invoice. What is the best way? Because he's working with audiences, people from around the globe now.
People can wire. We get wires we get it from, I have money wired from Taiwan, Japan. Somebody just wired me money from France. So, I mean, you get it from everywhere. So I don't think that's a problem. And I'm not good in things like PayPal or what's it called? Vend something.
Venmo.
But, yeah, there's all kinds of ways to do it. I'm not a good authority on it, but as long as you're dealing with honorable people who have the ability ethically, we've been paid from people in China too, but it normally comes from another country. So that's a little probably trickier, and I don't understand it. But I think in most cases, if it's a country that allows a currency transfer, that's not hard to do. Banks are wiring money all over. We wire money all over. So I think that your person just doesn't understand it. It's just a matter. Almost everybody is used to doing business that way. And you probably can take credit cards too, depending on what you're doing and what you're charging. We sometimes, Sheila, you know this, we've had people put $200,000 on their American Express card. And you have to get clearance for it. But once that person authorizes it and you tell your bank it's real and they verify it, you take a big hit on it as far as the discount. But there's tons of ways to, getting paid is not the key. It's creating the value that people want to pay for.
And some of those credit card programs, they have so many rewards that then when travel opens up again, you'll be able to go quite a few places for free or at a really big discount. So that kind of makes it work out as long as you don't get over indebted.
Everyone likes the points. Sadly, most of the points aren't worth what you think. We had, I've had $1 million of a million American Express points and thought I could spend like a drunken sailor. It didn't buy that much, but it's still nice to get, I guess. What else can I answer for you while we're still together?
Yes, I would love for you to share about like the challenge you just did and that program, how people could maybe get involved with those kind of entry level more programs to get started with you and how that looks.
Well, you could do a couple things. With the challenges, if you're a smaller company or business or you're not a company, go to, I can't remember which one it is. It's either Abraham University or jayabraham.com. Get on the email list, and we do challenges. I think we got, and you probably see it if you follow me, but you can go on and you get on the email list. We do static programs. We do, I think it's $200 a month if you wanted to be in a membership program. It's sometimes, $55 for the challenges, so it's not very much, and they're really valuable. We've done preeminence challenges, referral, masterful challenges. We've done, I got so many I can't remember. We've got a program on the mind of the marketplace for understanding how to really telegraph your message and your marketing. We've got a program, little ones, how to outthink the competition. We got all kinds of them. So it's, you can go also just go to Abraham University or jayabraham.com. There's another one, abraham.com, but it's not going to have, I don't think it's going to have more expensive things on it. But others, I'm sure they probably have announcements for that. I don't run that part, so I don't pay attention. But I know we have challenges coming up. We have a preeminence challenge, a greatness challenge. It's all one. We have I think another referral challenge coming. We have something called sharing some of these interventions I did with Tony. Quantum business growth or something. I can't remember.
Yes, yes. I think that's what it is. I do remember seeing that.
So we got so much stuff. I don't even pay attention. I have so many things always going on, but they're very, very modest in price, and I try to give a lot more than expected. And with full disclosure, we still try to sell more things at the end, but you're not obligated to buy them. And most of them are designed that at the end, win, lose, or draw on our part, you'll know how to capitalize on that content and that topic. So they're really cool.
Yes, and could you share a little bit about this concept of preeminence and how a new business could actually establish some preeminence in their business and community?
Sure. The concept is very foundational. You want your business, no matter what you sell, who you sell to, the size, scope, to be seen in the eyes of the target audience you're going after as the most trusted advisor in the category that you represent for life. You want to be seen as the only viable source they should turn to for whatever product, service, or problem or opportunity your product provides or serves or satisfies or solves. And there's a lot of elements, but the first thing is you want to basically be seen in the eyes of the market as the one person that understands them deeper than anyone else. And you want to put into words in very clear communication that you understand what they're feeling, what they're aspiring towards, what they're trying to get away from, closer to. You want to basically give them a very unique and distinctive point of view that everybody else isn't, so that you're not a commodity. You want to never allow them to buy less than they should, in less quantity, quality, or consistency than they should, or more than they should, or maybe they shouldn't even buy from you if it's not appropriate. You have to have their best interest always at heart. You have a moral obligation, if you believe your product service is indeed the best choice and going to serve them and protect them or enrich them, to do everything in your power to get them to avail themselves of it. You have, if you really get into preeminence, you shift your focus. Many people in business fall in love with either their company, their product, their profession or industry. But when you're preeminent, you fall in love with the clients that you serve, and you refer to them as clients, not customers. Look at it, Webster's dictionary definition of customers. It means someone who buys a commodity or a service. So if you call me a customer, you're telling me you're nothing more than a commodity. A client is somebody under the care, the protection, the well-being of another. So it has a much more higher reverence, and that's pretty much it.
Yes, and for those that are listening in who haven't attended one of your events or a mastermind or group event, one of the things that you use a lot is the Socratic method. Could you explain how you use that with the people that you work with when you're helping them?
Well, I mean, there's a quote, first of all, by Socrates. He said, "A life unexamined is a life not worth living." So my premise is a derivative. A business that's not constantly examined from as many impact points as possible is one that's not worth owning. So when I start out with a client or a program attendee like the one you went to, we start asking a myriad of questions. And I have, I guess I should be grateful, an expansive enough background in diverse business that I can relatively frequently, not always, but mostly understand and extrapolate what's going on in there. So I ask lots of logical questions that just keep progressing down the path of what's happening. Where do they get their business? How do they get it? Why do they get it? What do they do? How does it perform? I want to know everything. And as I'm asking these questions, I will challenge them very respectfully and question them. in terms of whether an answer makes no sense, or there's a gap, or there seems like there's an implication they're not seeing. And when you do it right, you help them discover answers. You help them discover opportunities. You help them discover issues, challenges they don't even know or they're not aware of. And it's a very powerful process. And we somewhere have a document on it. I could probably give it to you and you could post it on your own site. It's fundamentals of Socratic interviewing, but people who are very powerful know how to ask great questions. They know how to acknowledge that they heard them, and they know how to springboard from the answers to the next and the next related questions that not only engage but expand and expose understanding, not negative exposure, but open a window into the real heart of whatever the issue is. It's a very powerful process, and anybody who learns it, you'll probably be awkward the first time, but it's very powerful. It becomes very natural, and it engages people in ways most people can't imagine.
Yes. And even if you're listening in and you're a parent or a teacher, to be able to apply this in anything, in business or with your children, even, it changes the way they think and expands on everything they're learning. So for those listening, and there's so many different ways to apply the Socratic method, marketing, business, these business concepts that you've shared today in many different areas of our business and personal life. So I'm wondering, Jay, if you were to go back in time, what would you tell your younger self now that you are where you're at today?
You'll laugh about this, but you get this. I'd say use more of your income to buy assets, preferably real estate. I probably would have bought a lot of single family homes that I rented in very stable middle class communities. Mm-hmm. I didn't invest in many. I'm not the greatest investor. I wish I was, but as you get older, you like passive income more. And the few pieces of real estate that I do own have gone up. One has gone up, over 5 times. One has gone up, let's see, 3.5 times. Another one has gone up, probably, I don't own it anymore, but if I had kept it, it probably went up, 10 times. So I didn't buy real estate. I wish every year I had bought, homes. I'm not as much a commercial oriented person. I mean, you might be, but I like stable rental property, not the most expensive and definitely not the worst, but something that's very stable, that'll always be there, that it will always be desirable and a great environment for families, but also that will appreciate, and you let other people buy it for you. It's pretty nice. I had one of my clients, and I never listened to him. He would have people who would own 200 pieces of rental property after they were over a 20 or 30-year period. And, not only would they retire, but, they would have this incredible cash flow. If they ever needed cash, they could sell 2 or 3 of them. They had great tax advantages. They had all kinds of wonderful things they could do. They could do exchanges, all kinds of fun things with it. And I would have probably wished I did more of that. And I think I would have enjoyed, I'm not a good stock investor, but I think I would have been a good person in things like private equity. I never did that. So but I mean, the regrets are, reflections and regrets are 2 different things. I think that whatever your life was and is, it is. If you don't like something about the past, you can only try to be better every day, because you can't change. I can't do one thing to change 1 second ago, but I can do everything to change 1 second forward. Right. So you have to, you focus on what you can affect, not what you can't. So here's my answer. In the final analysis, because I do have to leave in about 2 minutes, is there anything else that I could answer for you.
But is there
That's-
anything else that you would like to share with the audience listening in?
Only that entrepreneurship is a wonderful and very satisfying way to live your life. And anybody can be a full or part-time entrepreneur. It isn't as risky as people think, and it isn't as costly as people think. And I think it's really great if you have children and grandchildren to give them an entrepreneurial exposure. I think if you can find products or services that make a difference in people's lives, and the difference can be serious difference, it can be entertainment, it can be enrichment, it can be opportunity, it can be resolution of things. But if you're fulfilling and filling needs, it's a very satisfying thing to do.
Yes, that'll be wonderful. Well, we thank you. I have so many guests here. I have people from around the globe, actually Australia, South Africa. I have London. I have some people from the Yes Group in London, a large group listening in, and they're going to share even more. So it was incredible, and I really appreciate having you as a guest on the show, Jay. Thank you so much.
It's really good talking. Thank you. I have to go.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
This is the Sheila Mack Show here on NBC's KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. And Jay had mentioned a special gift for you. So it is the critical thinking and Socratic interviewing method. Go to jayabraham.com/50 shades of Jay, and it is number 39, critical thinking and Socratic interviewing. Enjoy.